behind him. Corinna is 19, Kristen is 16, Sarah is 13, and Albert III is 10. He was the young man who was hit by the car outside of the Baltimore Orioles baseball park and almost died, and then had a lasting effect on the Gore family, Ron Brown and Alma Brown.
It's tough for us to make out the conversation, but if there are strange feelings, they certainly are not evident. George and Barbara Bush being extremely gracious, and what we could hear extremely friendly towards those in the Clinton party. And Millie came in for a good share of presidential attention, too, we might add.
Welcome, welcome, the president said. Welcome to your new house. I wish him all the best in the duties that lie before him. You could hardly ask for a more gracious transition than the beginning of the transition, at least than that.
At least the beginning of it. Now they will stay inside and have coffee and brief refreshments, and then after that, as we said, it's on fast forward. They will leave the White House and make their way towards the Capitol.
They will indeed, and we'll be watching it all with you here on NBC, and we'll be back after this station break.
NBC News coverage of the Clinton inaugural will continue.
It's an all-new mystery. A boss turns up missing. Did his employee murder for money and burn the evidence? Plus, help catch the killer of a young girl. Unsolved Mysteries, NBC tonight.
NBC's your ticket to the inaugural ball. Join Tom Brokaw and Katie Couric in our nation's capital for an NBC News special tonight on NBC.
Hey, you know, when you're young, the thought of spending a third of your life in bed has a certain appeal. And when you're not so young, while still appealing, it takes on a bit more importance. At Ryder's Furniture Warehouse Outlet, we take your good night's sleep seriously. Whatever your inspiration or budget, you can count on the sleep experts at Ryder's to provide you with the best bedding values in town. So for mattresses, waterbeds, soft-sided waterbeds, futons, bunk beds, and more, visit one of our sleep galleries at all 4 Ryder's Furniture Warehouse Outlet locations.
There's an ingredient in Efferdent you may not expect. Antibacterial Efferdent, made with Arm & Hammer baking soda. Leaves dentures baking soda fresh and clean.
There's a certain itch that's so private, most people will only discuss it with their doctor. Fortunately, you can get Anusol HC1 ointment over the counter with the same prescription strength doctors have prescribed most.
Rochester fights back, fighting drugs in Rochester.
NBC News coverage of the Clinton inaugural continues.
We're back, and we are at a moment in history here, and we will be in about 90 minutes when George Bush goes out of office. That means that we'll have 5 living former presidents of the United States at this time: Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, and George Bush, about to be an ex-president. That's the first time that's happened since 1861. One of the former presidents who is here today is Jimmy Carter. In fact, he's the only one who's attended these ceremonies. Although the rest were invited, they declined to accept the invitation of the Clintons. And Jimmy Carter has had a very productive life since leaving the White House. We all know about that. But in a recent interview with NBC's Ken Lee Jones, he talked about his last days in the Oval Office, his thoughts.
Well, I never had been in the Oval Office before, but after I was elected president, Gerald Ford was nice enough to invite me up just to look at the Oval Office. But it was a brief visit, just a courtesy call. The sobering and emotional part was when we finally went into the White House to be there for 4 years. And went from one room to another and saw where Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln and Harry Truman and Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt and others had served. Saw the furniture that they used and the beds on which they slept, and realized the overwhelming responsibility that I had from a personal point of view, and the history that we would be involved in making.
What about when you greeted Mr. and Mrs. Reagan at the White House? I mean, there must have been a different feeling, obviously, going out as a loser rather than the winner.
Well, this was Tuesday morning, and since Saturday night, I had not at all been to bed. I had been trying to negotiate the release of the hostages before I left office. Neither President Reagan nor any of his senior cabinet officers, defense or state, would even receive a briefing about the hostage crisis. They had wanted to have nothing to do with it at all.
On the ride to the Capitol from the White House, did you and Mr. Reagan discuss that issue at all?
No. Tip O'Neill was in the car with us, and it was mostly just a kind of a casual bantering back and forth about the crowds and the different people we saw along the way and the different flags flying. And I think Tip and President Reagan were telling Irish jokes. So it was a very informal trip from the White House to the Capitol.
Jimmy Carter, one of those who has conducted himself in exemplary fashion since leaving office, and in the process elevated the image that was considerably down when he left the White House, Tom.
I think that even those who were close to him say this was a man who was not quite prepared for the job that he assumed, and then he had a very difficult time, both economically and with the hostages in Iran. But he's gone off, and as you say, he's conducted himself in the most exemplary fashion, not only continuing his interest in international affairs, especially in the Middle East and the disputes in Africa, but as a kind of Christian missionary, I suppose, and for humanitarian reasons, Habitat for Humanity, and the many things that he does in this country. And he's used his library for a lot of very productive conferences about the presidency and about the state of the world.
Very difficult for any man to come down from the mountaintop and know what you do with the rest of your life. John Chancellor has some thoughts on how some others have handled it, or some suggestions they've had.
Well, the question of what to do with former presidents has been a vexing one in the United States for a long time. There was an editor of the Louisville Courier-Journal at one time when there were 5 of these fellows around with not much to do, and he worried that some of them might get back in politics and be disruptive, and so he said, in jest, maybe we just ought to take them out and shoot them. That's a joke. Don't write in, please. But and then Grover Cleveland, another former president, came along and said later he thought that was a pretty good idea. It's worthy of attention, he said, taking them out and shooting them. Harry Truman, himself a former president at that time, had an idea that made a little more sense. He wanted them to be appointed members of the U.S. Senate with no vote. And wiser heads over here on the Hill said, no, they didn't think that was a very good idea. So they're still all out there, and now we've got 5 of them again.
For the record, lest everybody go scurrying to their history books after Tom said that hasn't happened, 5 former presidents since 1861 witness to an inauguration. When Lincoln was inaugurated in 61, the 5 living former presidents were Martin Van Buren, Franklin Pierce, Millard Fillmore, John Tyler, and James Buchanan. Not exactly a memorable bunch.
And we have so loaded up our computer, we can tell you that there are now 7 former First Ladies who are living as well.
Don't ask me.
Jackie Kennedy and Lady Bird Johnson, of course.
Adding to the 5.
Right. Their husbands are deceased, but they continue on, and we'll now have the 7 altogether. We want to show you the Capitol because people are beginning to assemble there. Justice Rehnquist, we suspect, is somewhere in the bowels of the Capitol preparing to offer the oath of the president to William Jefferson Clinton at high noon today. You're looking down Pennsylvania Avenue. This is the scene that Bill Clinton will look out upon, and we expect an enormous crowd. Between 300,000 and 500,000 were here the other night at the Lincoln Memorial for that rock and roll concert, and we can expect close to that many for this presidential inauguration, because this represents a true change in power. It's been 12 years since the Democrats have assumed the presidency, and there are a whole lot of Democrats across the country who come to be witness to this. I saw a family last night from Alabama. 5 children, mother and dad, very proud. They were just taking in all the sights, going everywhere that they could, having their pictures taken with everybody else. The Arkansas legislators had a whole table at a restaurant here. South Dakota Democrats filled up a table. That's about the entire party in South Dakota. So there are a lot of people who've come from across the country to be witness to this moment. NBC's Tim Russert is in the Capitol area, and Tim, there's been a lot of speculation about the role of Hillary Clinton, and we do think that it will be considerable, don't we?
Absolutely, Tom. I spoke to Clinton aides as late as last night. They describe it as all-pervasive. Many Clinton aides say that Hillary Clinton was elected too. Let me give you 2 examples. Just yesterday, the future First Lady was telling the future president, discipline, Bill, the D word. You must keep this speech short. Discipline, discipline. In a week, you can give your State of the Union message. Make this your executive summary. One other example, Tom. Last Sunday, we saw pictures of Colin Powell The chairman of Joint Chief of Staff last asked the new Secretary of Defense going into the Blair House to brief Bill Clinton on the situation in Iraq. There was actual discussion within the Clinton ranks whether Hillary should sit in on that military briefing. They decided she should not. People at the Pentagon tell me she does not have top security clearance, and she will not be allowed into future security briefings as well.
Thank you very much. Tim Russert will be coming back to you throughout the course of the day. Tim, of course, is our Washington Bureau Chief, resident political analyst, and moderator of Meet the Press, and chief booster of the Buffalo Bills in the nation's capital.
Yeah, he's been talking a lot now. He wasn't yelling a lot at halftime when the playoffs began, but he's happy now.
Right. Bryant, we're going to be back with continuing coverage of this inauguration of Bill Clinton and Al Gore, now in the White House, meeting with George and Barbara Bush. We'll continue right after this.
The presidential inaugural ceremonies are being sponsored in part by Pringles. So fresh. Once you pop, you can't stop. And by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
Introducing Ford Taurus SHO and the craving. If you've had a craving for a truly sophisticated performance sedan, may we suggest our 24-valve, 220 horsepower Taurus SHO, now available with automatic transmission. Think of it as caviar for the power hungry.
This is light.
Pringles light. Hey, they're great. Wow!
These are light?
Give me more!
Wait. Let's put Pringles Light up against these bag chips. There's 25% less fat in Pringles than in these.
You're talking my language.
And they're a lot less greasy. A lot less.
That's great.
Fantastic. These are great.
Once you pop, you can't stop. But I don't have to.
Wow, you folks look like experienced travelers.
Well, we are staying at a Clarion hotel.
Did you know if you pay for your room with the American Express card, you can save 30%?
Sure, for business or pleasure.
So, happy with your room?
Yeah, they told us if they couldn't make us happy, their first night's on them.
Ooh, sounds like a good deal.
Oh, and another thing.
At Clarion, they don't throw your luggage around. Tea?
Thank you. Clarion Hotels and the American Express card. For reservations, call 1-800-4CHOICE.
If you're wondering where we are, that's it. This is our little homespun booth here atop the Labor Department on Constitution Avenue, just across from the Capitol, as you can see in the background there. We do have a remarkable view.
Lighting director's nightmare.
Yeah, it is, because the sun is coming up from the east, obviously, and it's pouring in on us, keeping us warm, and our comfort is not of concern to all of you today. We know that. Our families are a little bit concerned about, just a trifle. We were talking just a few moments ago, talking about family relationships, about the role of Hillary Clinton in this White House. There was a great deal of talk about a co-presidency when Bill Clinton selected one of his contemporaries, Al Gore, the senator from Tennessee, as a vice president. A lot of speculation in recent days about Gore moving down, if you will, Hillary Clinton moving up when it comes to making decisions. Well, over the weekend, I asked Gore about his place in the Clinton advice team.
Well, you saw a very different relationship during the campaign than you have ever seen in the past. We're alike in our outlook, in our dreams for the country, in our backgrounds in many ways. We're both sons of the New South, and we have fought for the same changes within the country and within the Democratic Party. And we have found, as our friendship has grown, that we really enjoy working together. We each bring a slightly different perspective. We've each concentrated on different aspects of the challenge that lies before our country now. And it's been fun, and it has worked well. And it's going to continue that way.
President-elect Clinton has made it very clear that the one person he'd like to have in a room during a major crisis would be Hillary Clinton. Do you feel slightly left out by the fact that he puts you in third place and Hillary Clinton kind of in second place in the chain of command there?
Well, no, of course not. And I think that one of the things that is new with this generational change that you see in this inaugural is a different kind of dialogue between husbands and wives about the kinds of issues that presidents have to deal with. And Hillary Clinton is a force for good. She has excellent advice. And if people knew the full range and quality of the advice she brings to the table, they'd be asking, why doesn't he rely on her more?
Are you going to be able to escape some of the cliches of the vice presidency in the past, always being the man who represents the United States at foreign funerals, for example?
Until I go to my first funeral.
Al Gore is a man with a wide range of interest and expertise in this city, but he also knows that he is the Vice President of the United States. And Bryant, it was ever thus, they're always going to be number two.
Isn't that the truth? Al Gore and his family are still in the Blue Room, the formal parlor at the White House, still having coffee and Danish with George and Barbara Bush. We are waiting for them to emerge from the White House and start to make their way over to the Capitol, a distance of only 1.5 miles or so. While we wait them, let's go to Andrew Mitchell, who's over by the White House. And Andrea wants to talk about the new administration. We note that just about 2 hours from now, Bill Clinton will be signing those documents, officially nominating his cabinet. What are your thoughts on that end, Andrea?
Well, as you know, they are going to rush through confirmation votes today on Secretary of State-designate Warren Christopher and Defense Secretary-designate Les Aspin to bring them officially into office, and a swearing-in will be held. Earlier, as you know, also, Brent Scowcroft briefed Bill Clinton for about an hour over at the Blair House, and we're now told that one of the pieces of that briefing was to, a rather sobering thought, brief him on how to use the nuclear codes. So he was given a full briefing on the White House communication system, the nuclear codes, and what he would have to do in case of an emergency. This in addition to bringing him up to date on Iraq and other points around the world. Just about a half hour ago, Tony Lake, the new National Security Advisor, arrived with his staff, walked from the northwest gate of the White House and went into the West Wing to assume his new office, and I asked him how things were, and he said everything is very quiet. And just another thought about Hillary Clinton as this administration takes over, to add to what Tom was just discussing with Vice President-elect Al Gore. I talked to a cabinet secretary this week, and we were discussing domestic policy, and I was asking about Carol Rasko, who's going to be domestic policy advisor. She's an Arkansas state official, and he said very matter-of-factly, well, the reason she was chosen is because she will report to Hillary, because Hillary will be running domestic policy. And this was a very matter-of-fact statement. It was a given from this member of the cabinet.
All right, Andrew Mitchell over at the White House. Thanks, Andrew. We'll be checking back with you. We've still a lot more ahead on this inauguration morning. We'll come back and try to pick up the first family, the new first family, as they leave the White House and head for the formal proceedings over at the Capitol. We'll get to that when we come back right after this.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance.
So you really like that, huh?
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Things you never heard about a Bran cereal before.
It's bran.
It's what?
It's bran.
No, it isn't. Isn't bran mushy? These flakes are crunchy.
Kellogg's Frosted Bran is different. It's lightly frosted and very crunchy, even in milk.
Hey, Mom, the cereal you got? That's really good.
Kellogg's Frosted Bran. It sure doesn't sound like bran.
So you like them.
I love them.
When we gave the Escort of the 90s more power, better handling, more room, and a sleeker look, we received a special recognition. More repeat buyers than any small car in America. Ford Escort.
Hi.
Hi.
Was it something I said?
Just a business trip. I came over last night. You had company.
You mean my brother? He just loves my coffee.
Your brother. Savor the sophisticated taste of Taster's Choice.
Hi.
Don't tell me you forgot to pack your Taster's Choice.
Listen, I'm going to be in Paris.
How romantic.
Well, it can be.
Fido, Fido. Fetch Fido.
Is your best friend trying to tell you something? Yes, Dentine now has more breath-freshening flavor. So brush your breath clean with great-tasting new Dentine.
This is the plan for the B-2 bomber. This is the structure of DNA. This is a long-distance calling plan. What do they all have in common? You can't understand any one of them. Fortunately, Sprint can decipher long distance for you. With priority service, they'll review your account and let you know if you're on the right plan. It's that easy. And this is how you call Sprint.
It's a festive day here in Washington, D.C., of course, but in the Persian Gulf, American forces do remain on alert, even though Saddam Hussein has declared a unilateral ceasefire, hoping to extend an olive branch to Bill Clinton. Nonetheless, President George Bush has extended the term of Defense Secretary Dick Cheney until 4 o'clock this afternoon so that we can have continuity of command at the very top in case something happens. The coffee now is coming to an end, just about 5 minutes past schedule, maybe a little more than that. That's President George Bush that you just saw a moment ago. They'll begin to emerge from the White House, and then they will ride together to Capitol Hill. And as Brian has used the phrase so aptly this morning, we go on fast forward. Terry Thomason and Linda Bloodworth Thomason.
Co-producers of the event.
Mac McCarty. You'll be seeing a lot of him, the man in the camel's hair coat. He's the new White House Chief of Staff, one of Bill Clinton's oldest and closest friends. They met in kindergarten. You know, Brian, Arkansas has been a remarkable pool of considerable political talent. When you think back over the years, Brooks Hayes, the congressman, Senator William Fulbright, Dale Bumpers and David Pryor, two highly regarded senators now. Wilbur Mills, who was the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee for so many years and a powerful force in Capitol Hill. All of these people came from Arkansas, and now the first president from that state, Bill Clinton, who was a 5-term governor of Arkansas. And I think that what happens in a state like Arkansas is that you get 1 or 2 people and they become role models and they inspire generation after generation. Bill Fulbright, of course, was a great mentor to a lot of young people who came out of that state.
But he is not taking a page from the Jimmy Carter book. He is not bringing his state and his people en masse into Washington and turning his back on the establishment. That, of course, was the basis for much of the difficulty that Carter experienced during his 4 years in the White House and the difficulties he had dealing with Congress. Bill Clinton has been wise to keep the confidence of some of those with whom he has had long relationships, but to depend on the professionals and, in many cases, the Washington insiders to do business.
People forget that the Speaker of the House was a Democrat when Jimmy Carter was here, Thomas P. Tip O'Neill. No more partisan Democrat than Tip O'Neill, but relations were so bad that he referred to Hamilton Jordan as Hamilton Jerkin, who was the White House Chief of Staff. That was not an auspicious beginning for the Carter White House, and it did, of course, mean that they were going to have trouble on the Hill.
Tip will have a seat on the podium today, along with Jim Wright. Will also be there. Got a chance to see Tip O'Neill yesterday afternoon. He's had some health problems, as I think everyone knows by now. His weight is down considerably, but he says he's feeling pretty good right now.
No, he looked in fine form. He plays a lot of golf, a sport that you care a lot about, and he has an unusual attitude. He says, hit till you're happy. So, I mean, it's not just one mulligan off the tee. You just hit until you're happy.
Problem is, every shot makes somebody happy.
All right, John Chancellor, as we are looking at the White House awaiting the departure of Bill Clinton, what's your best guess about what he'll ask for in his inaugural address? Will he use the John F. Kennedy theme of sacrifice and commitment to country?
I think he will be more general than, or he'll be as general as most of them are when they make these the speeches up here. I think he will save for the State of the Union address the specifics on what he wants to do, because I think they really haven't quite made up their mind on some of these big things. He can paint with a broad brush things like, we need better health care in this country. We need to do something about the deficit. Those are 2 big bell ringers that he probably will mention. But if he's going to be specific about it, I doubt it today that he will get into great specificity. He's also got the problem of 20 minutes. This man is prolix. And we can all remember, Tom, I think I was sitting with you when in 1988 he made that speech for Dukakis, and it went on and on and on and on and on, and then Governor Clinton said, and in conclusion, and everybody in the hall clapped and carried on, and then he went even longer than that, you remember, last summer. So that I think he's got to keep it pretty spare today and hit the high points and not get into a laundry list of things that he wants.
And apparently he's not going to do that, John. We've just gotten advance word that the speech is only 5 pages long. The Clinton transition team is claiming it is the 3rd shortest inaugural speech in history. The very shortest was Washington's first. It was just 135 words altogether. So he took the advice to the extreme. They said, be brief, discipline, as Tim Russert reported from Hillary Clinton. And now we have just a 5-page speech, and we'll see whether it's a poem about what he has in mind for the country.
Well, is that single-spaced, Tom?
The problem is he plays the game of high expectations, but in truth, as John noted, it is instead to lay out a very broad picture, and then inevitably everyone is prone to compare his speech to those that have gone before, and I guess the one thing on which everyone agrees is that Abraham Lincoln's second in 1865 was the one that is the standard. I think it was 465 words, and I saw where one commentator said comparing this one to any of the others is like comparing a Rembrandt to paint by the numbers.
That's right. It's just on 2 panels over at the Lincoln Memorial. I was over there the other day to read it again, and you cannot read it often enough, nor are you ever failed to be moved by those words at the end of the Civil War. Bill Clinton, in looking at past inaugural addresses, was struck by Richard Nixon's first speech. Ronald Reagan's speech when he came before this land with a new spirit, a new ideology, if you will, has gotten good notices in recent years. But no phrases have been sticking out like John F. Kennedy's ask not, or FDR's we have nothing to fear but fear itself. In the latest edition of Bartlett's, Lincoln is tops with 7. Jefferson, Franklin Roosevelt, and John F. Kennedy had 5, most of these from inaugural speeches. Nixon did have 1 in the last edition, but it was dropped this time. Carter, Reagan, and Bush, none. Bush, 4 years ago, said kinder, gentler, but a lot of people feel that he failed to live up to that.
It's been slow times on oratory. You know, this morning I had a chance to visit with a gentleman, Philip Brooks, who's a inaugural historian, inaugural archives historian, I should note. And I was talking with him, and I said the Clinton people have done nothing to discourage comparisons with JFK in his inauguration. Do you see the similarities? And while he acknowledged some, I was surprised. He said this one reminds him most, in a historical sense, of FDR's in 31. He said because of the tenor of the times and the economic tone.
It is that same kind of change, I think. Tim Russert's down there on the Capitol area right now. Tim?
Tom, on the speech, one point I should make is that Bill Clinton insisted that he write this speech himself. Unlike the convention speech, which had a lot of different people contributing words, he said, I'll take your ideas, I'll take your thoughts, but these are going to be my words. He was very taken by a strip to Monticello, where Thomas Jefferson put his own pen to pad, and today, whether it's good or bad, the words you will hear will be Bill Clinton's very own.
Thank you, Tim. I rode on part of that bus trip from Monticello to Washington, D.C. with Bill Clinton, and we did talk about the challenges of writing a memorable inaugural speech, and it is the moment on this day that sets the tone for the first 100 days or so of the administration. A lot of people will be judging the failure or success of this day based on what he has to say here. He said that he had read all of the inaugural speeches as he prepared for this one.
Even Harrison's?
Even Harrison's, which ran for 2 hours. He did it in a driving rainstorm and then died a month later. That's a cautionary tale.
Yeah. You and I were talking a little bit earlier about the expectations game for this speech and how difficult it is going to be for Bill Clinton. And in one sense, we're a little bit surprised, too, because the schedule calls for Clinton to give his inaugural address and then that to be followed by the speech on Pulse of Morning by the poem by Maya Angelou, and then the invocation, or the benediction, rather, by Billy Graham. One would have thought it would have gone the other way, but
That's
Billy
what the
Graham
schedule
is the
calls
most
for.
is the preacher to the presidents. He spent last night at the White House.
This is 7th?
He was chosen today by Bill Clinton to appear here. He is a Baptist, of course. A lot of well-known American evangelists and preachers have come and gone, but Billy Graham has endured, and he will have a place in these inaugural ceremonies. We are looking now again at the White House. As they prepare to leave there, they're beginning to run about 15 minutes behind schedule. They were due to be in the motorcade at 10:45 Eastern Time this morning. It's now coming up on 11, according to the official tentative schedule, as they described it. Clinton and Gore's parents were to be arriving at the platform door. Well, all of that has obviously been delayed.
Yeah, the moment they shoot for actually is noon, but there is nothing in the Constitution, frankly, that says it has to be done at noon. That is the objective.
Tipper Gore and Marilyn Quayle. Vice President Dan Quayle on the right and his successor Al Gore on the left. They served in the United States Senate. Senator Stevens behind him. Congressman Bob Michael, who is the Republican leader of the House, immediately coming out. Richard Gephardt, who is the majority leader in the House of Representatives. Barbara Bush and Hillary Clinton, arm in arm. The President of the United States and his successor, Bill Clinton. Speaker Foley from the House behind him.
Along with Senator Wendell Ford of the inaugural committee, the 4 of them will be riding over together in the first automobile. They're actually a very short motorcade, only 5 automobiles involved. The second will be the outgoing First Lady and the incoming. They'll be riding with Senator Mitchell and Representative Bob Michael.
George Bush, Bill Clinton, Foley, and Ford in that car. They'll have something to say to each other. There are 4 pals. I mean, they've been around a while. Okay, this is the route that they'll be following now. It's about 1.2 miles up Pennsylvania Avenue to the nation's capital. Pennsylvania Avenue has been restored in the last 20 years. When John F. Kennedy came down it, he said, can't we do something about Pennsylvania Avenue? It's been allowed to deteriorate to a pretty seedy condition. Inside the presidential limousine, George Bush waving goodbye, departing the White House now. 8 years as Vice President of the United States, 4 years as President. He bids farewell to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the most prestigious address in the world.
Tom, as you noted, this ride will probably be enjoyable for both Bush and Clinton as they go on over. 'Twas not ever thus, as history has noted several times. FDR on the way to his, waving gleefully, Hoover staring straight ahead, Eisenhower and Kennedy not speaking to each other. Strained times between Ford and Carter, but this one should be relatively cordial.
There's a new informality to these occasions. People tend to forget that John F. Kennedy, who was a very contemporary president, at least in my memory, arrived here in top hat. The last president to do that. A silk top hat.
Wasn't it?
I know you have a lot of those.
No doubt. Wasn't it Eisenhower that started the run on Homburgs?
He had the Homburg.
When he was inaugurated?
That's right. The top hat did not catch on, however.
No, it didn't.
And John Kennedy, in fact, did not do a lot for the hat industry because he refused to wear one after that, almost everywhere. And hats went out of fashion in America, now replaced by baseball caps. NBC's Tom Pettit is down there on the motorcade route. Tom?
Tom, this is one of the most magnificent views of the Capitol and the whole inaugural process and the parade itself this afternoon. Security, as you might well imagine, is very serious. It is seen and it is not seen. There are at least 5,000 Capitol Hill police in uniform around Capitol Hill. There are military guards along the route that the motorcade will pass. There are sharpshooters on top of several of these buildings. There's what they call the counter-assault team, which is like commandos who are prepared in case anything really untoward should happen, and their job would be to rescue whoever needs rescuing. It's a very, very clear day, and the security people will have no difficulty at all seeing the motorcade, which we're looking at now. The motorcade itself is flanked by not only DC police, but also by Secret Service agents. And within the crowds, there are a number, we don't know exactly how many, of undercover police, both from the FBI and from the local District of Columbia and from the United States Secret Service.
Thank you, Tom. Headed along the parade route this morning, and security, of course, is a primary consideration. It is the responsibility of the Secret Service, but they enlist a lot of people, the DC police and all the other law enforcement agencies they can get their hands on. Many of them are undercover here. I even saw today a Tennessee State Highway Patrol car that had been driven up here, I suppose to help with the Gores and the Tennessee delegation.
Considering the excitement of the week, the crowd seems rather restrained. I'm surprised. Let's see if Margaret Larson has a different take on that. She's also along the route of the motorcade. She's up at the Navy Memorial. Margaret, are our mics just not picking it up or somewhat restrained?
Brian, I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. As you can probably hear in the background, there's a reggae band providing some of the pre-parade entertainment, and so we're having a little bit of audio difficulty, but I can tell you that on this very clear day with the crowds lining the streets, up to 250,000 people expected later to see the inaugural parade, we are awaiting the motorcade to bring Mr. Clinton and Mr. Bush to the swearing-in ceremony. Ceremony, of course, that will end the first-term presidency of George Bush and begin the Clinton era. We see now the motorcade proceeding this way, led by motorcycle police officers. We await the rest of the procession.
All right, thank you very much. Margaret Larson will tell you that what happens here is the motorcade arrives at the Capitol. The rest of the party will go directly to the platform, but the principals, that is the Bush family, the Clinton family, and the Gore family, will be taken to a holding room, and then they'll be coming out onto that magnificent platform with this spectacular view of Washington, and we'll be back with more right after the station break.
NBC News coverage of the Clinton inaugural will continue.
It's Cheers' final season, only 11 new episodes left. But look who's back. And guess what he wants?
Small change purse?
With $6 million.
The search is on. Big bucks or bust on all new Cheers. Then Alex heats up some sibling rivalry.
I really find only one of you attractive.
Wings right after an all new Cheers, NBC Thursday.
From your 24-hour news channel, here's the latest weather from News 10.
Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist John Hamilton. It will be a lovely day across western New York. Bright sunshine, milder temperatures. Should climb to the upper 30s during the afternoon with southwest wind 8 to 18. Tonight, that will be another cold one. Fair skies dropping down to the low 20s with light winds. That's your latest forecast from your 24-hour news channel. We'll have full details for you at News 10 at 1.
Hey, you know, when you're young, the thought of spending a third of your life in bed has a certain appeal. And when you're not so young, while still appealing, it takes on a bit more importance. At Ryder's Furniture Warehouse Outlet, we take your good night's sleep seriously. Whatever your inspiration or budget, you can count on the sleep experts at Ryder's to provide you with the best bedding values in town. So for mattresses, waterbeds, soft-sided waterbeds, futons, bunk beds, and more, visit one of our sleep galleries at all 4 Ryder's Furniture Warehouse Outlet locations.
Students Against Drunk Driving, making a difference in Rochester.
NBC News coverage of the Clinton inaugural continues. Here again are Tom Brokaw and Bryant Gumbel.
The motorcade from the White House to the Capitol now on the final leg of this momentous trip that it is making, escorted by outriders and by very heavy security, both in the motorcade and along the entire route. The final 55 minutes of the administration of George Herbert Walker Bush just 55 minutes away from the beginning of the administration of Bill Clinton.
Tom, it's somewhat interesting, as we disappeared for station break before, you noted that once upon arrival at the Capitol, while most will go to their positions at the podium, at the stand rather, the principals will go to holding rooms in the Capitol. Surprisingly, it was George Bush who asked for separate holding rooms. We understand that is unusual, that in the past they were held in en masse, but that George Bush had asked for separate holding rooms, and so the Bushes will go to one, the Clintons to another, and the Gores to another. And so you've got to think that maybe George Bush is anticipating these final moments will be somewhat emotional.
He is an emotional man. You know, we've seen him on many occasions, especially with military forces and other moments in his presidency when he begins to weep and his voice breaks. NBC's Bob Kerr is down there on the parade route right now. Bob?
Well, actually, Tom, I'm right outside the door at the Capitol where everyone will be going in. We see the lead motorcycles now, the security detail coming in, and soon we'll be following all those cars. You were speculating a little while about how interesting the conversations must be and have been in history when the president-elect rides with the president up to this occasion. And we were speculating up here that one of the interesting things might even be in that there's one car, I guess, that's carrying all the children, Chelsea Clinton and the Gore children. I wonder if they fought over what to listen to on the radio as they were coming up here. Anyway, here they come, Tom, and the first car, of course, is President-elect Clinton and President Bush. They're going into what's called the law library door, which is the original Supreme Court of the United States. This is where it first was, and they go in that entrance. The second car, of course, carrying Mrs. Bush and Mrs. Clinton. Each of the cars has members of the Congressional Inauguration Committee as well. Let's see what we see as they get out here.
These are exceptional moments. All the dignity and the power of the United States and the essence of democracy played out right here.
All right.
Outgoing president and the incoming president riding in the same car to the nation's capital to begin the peaceful transformation of power.
They are being met there by the Sergeant-at-Arms of the Senate and House, and from here they'll be proceeding to those separate holding rooms.
Bill Clinton has chosen a blue tie for the occasion.
Tom, there's a great pressure here, too, as well, as the Democrats take control again, or are about to take control again. There's some accountability that comes with controlling both houses in the White House. No more political cover, no more finger pointing, no more excuses, really. One of the Clinton pollsters, Stan Greenberg, has said they are really on the line now. There has to be some movement here. America says goodbye, at least for now, to George Bush in a somewhat mixed way.
Kerr, we're looking now at pictures of the children, the Gore children arriving with Chelsea. All will be attending private schools here, Beauvoir, St. Albans, and Sidwell Friends. The eldest, Gore child, is a student at Harvard. Harvard is in second place in this administration. Another Yale graduate, Bill Clinton of the Yale Law School, about to become president, succeeding a Yale graduate, George Bush.
Can you imagine, Tom, how Bill Clinton must be feeling at this moment? I mean, he was really dismissed as a long shot when he got into this. The man he rode up here with today was at 70% in the polls when Bill Clinton decided to get in the race. And now I guess the self-proclaimed comeback kid is here, ready to take the microphone and address the nation.
We're now back outside on the platform as the members of the various parties begin to assemble there. While they're getting themselves into place and while the President-elect of the United States is composing himself finally, you're looking at Ron Brown, the new Commerce Secretary, outgoing Democratic National Chairman. That is your nation's capital, and we will continue with these festivities and this important occasion in just a moment.
The presidential inaugural ceremonies are being sponsored in part by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? It's more than just a question. It's an answer.
Comfort in a four-wheel drive. Amazing.
I got a big crew and I need a lot of space.
It makes me feel tall.
It's tough but refined. Kind of like me.
It's got it all.
Why do more people find themselves in a Ford Explorer than any other vehicle in its class? For as many reasons as there are Explorers.
Finders keepers.
Find yourself in an Explorer.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
What's so great? What's so great about the Ocean Spray Cranberry? Perhaps we could put it this way.
Bow, 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 think about, think about, think about,
Sweet tart.
Sweet tart.
Ocean Spray Cran drinks. It's amazing what a little cran can do. And now, there's a little cran for people on the go. Ocean Spray singles.
A quick reminder. Lubriderm lotion heals your dry skin and protects it. Remember, the one created for dermatologists is the one that heals and protects. See you later, alligator.
Now for your bath, Lubriderm introduces the Loofah Bar with natural loofah to gently exfoliate for softer, smoother skin. See you later, alligator.
The biggest medical news of the 90s may be a special group of vitamins called antioxidants, because healthy bodies need antioxidants like beta-carotene to help strengthen the body's natural defenses against cell damage. Centrum contains the complete antioxidant group, plus more vitamins and minerals than any leading brand. So eat right, and to supplement your diet, take Centrum, more complete from A to zinc, and with the complete antioxidant group, more important than ever.
Back atop the Department of Labor building on this historic day, we continue to focus our eyes on the Capitol, and you can see former President Jimmy Carter in the upper left of your screen, Walter Mondale just behind him, just Tip O'Neill there also, just a few of the dignitaries who have come to witness the swearing in of Bill Clinton. As Tom noted a little bit earlier, all former chief executives and their vice presidents were invited, but the others, for one reason or another, declined, huh?
Yeah, and Walter Mondale, by the way, was invited to have a major role in the foreign policy of this administration, and he accepted the ambassadorship to Moscow, and then that was Friday, and then Sunday declined, and they're not entirely sure why, because he was eager to get back in. He had been a candidate for the UN job and then accepted the Moscow job and then decided that he would not accept it. The President Carter and Mrs. Carter right there. Katie Couric is down there somewhere in the midst of all that.
Tom, I've never felt shorter in my entire life. I'm not sure if you can see me, but right now I'm shaking the hand of Senator Sam Nunn. He's somewhere up there in that whole sea of cameras, Senator Nunn. So tell me, this is a big day for you, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great day. The weather's wonderful. I think he's going to make a terrific speech and get off to a terrific start.
This seems like more or less a nonpartisan celebration. Everybody seems to be very affable. A lot of glad handing and backslapping going on around here.
Well, I hope it lasts a while. That's it's always natural on Inauguration Day, but I think this one may last a little while.
All right, well, we'll have to see. Tom, listen, if I can explain the geography down here just a bit, and Bryant, you too. In front of me is sort of the inner circle. This is the inner podium area. There are about 300 seats here. This is reserved for family members, some of the Senate aides of Senator Gore when he was a senator here on Capitol Hill. There's some other famous faces. I just saw Admiral William Crowell, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who played a really pivotal role in rallying that military support for Bill Clinton during the campaign. Senator William Fulbright is in the inner podium area. Of course, Bill Clinton worked for him as an intern when he was a student at Georgetown University. Now, of course, I am relegated to the outer circle, the senators. Actually, this is a real who's who of Capitol Hill. I'm next to Senator Sarbanes and Metzenbaum. Behind me is Senator Dodd, Senator Lautenberg, Carl Levin's there, Paul Simon. I mean, everybody who's anybody is sitting right in this very corner, you guys.
Katie,
Katie, what's the comfort level up there? How cold is it?
You know, it is really comfortable, and I hate to say it, I'm actually hot. I'm wearing my jimmies, or whatever you call them, Bryant, long johns, and I ran up here so quickly that I'm actually thinking about taking my coat off. But, Senator Sarbanes, it's really comfortable. You look bundled up, but it's pretty comfortable, don't you think?
The sun's out, which makes a tremendous difference. Yeah,
that's right.
It's all
We're very fortunate. We're in the sun, and I didn't mention that, but behind all these senators are some of the Senate spouses as well, and we were meeting and greeting them earlier this morning. But everyone is very excited here and looking forward to see the president-elect.
Of course, one of the reasons why Ronald Reagan elected to have the swearing in on the west front of the Capitol as opposed to the east side back in 1981, they cited economy for the move, that a new platform did not have to be built, that in fact there was a natural arrangement there, and so many of the dignitaries here in Washington take advantage of that arrangement, what seems to now be a new tradition since President Reagan started it in '81, giving him an opportunity to look west to his roots and at the same time turn his back on Moscow, we might add.
Yeah, and you do have the feeling as you stand there that you can look all the way across the country. You have it does open before you. We have seen the Bill Clinton speech. We will not try to upstage him in any way, but it is short, and it is to the point. And we'll be hearing it from Bill Clinton himself before too long. They're still in the holding room at the Capitol. The crowd is assembling. Everything is in order. It's quiet in the world for this transformation of power. January 20th, 1993. We'll be back right after this.
Introducing Ford Taurus SHO and the craving. If you've had a craving for a truly sophisticated performance sedan, may we suggest our 24-valve, 220 horsepower Taurus SHO, now available with automatic transmission. Think of it as caviar for the power hungry.
Dad, could you leave the door open a crack?
How's that?
Could you check the closet one more time?
Nothing here.
Are you sure there's nothing under my bed?
Nope, no monsters here. Okay?
Okay.
Good night, buddy.
Dad?
Yeah?
Could you leave the hall light on?
It's a big world, and no one helps kids grow into it healthy and strong better than Flintstones, complete with the vitamins and minerals kids need and the taste they love.
We are Flintstone kids, 10 million strong and growing. We are Flintstone kids, 10 million strong.
Flintstones, still #1.
And growing.
If these laxatives work, why should you consider Dulcolax? Because Dulcolax works differently. It's the only leading overnight laxative with a special comfort coating designed to protect your stomach. Dulcolax is gentle enough for children. And so effective, more doctors recommend Dulcolax than X-Lax and Correctol combined. Ask your doctor about gentle, effective, comfort-coated Dulcolax. Experience the comfort of Dulcolax.
We're back at the nation's capital. The crowd has assembled now, awaiting the arrival of Bill Clinton, Al Gore, and George Bush, along with Dan Quayle, of course, there, looking out across the mall, the Washington Memorial, all the way to the White House down Pennsylvania Avenue as Bill Clinton prepares to take the oath of office. We should be seeing them in the next just few moments. George Bush was in office only 4 years, but what an exceptional time that was in the world, Bryant. We tend to forget that in the last 4 years, Gorbachev was removed from office. The USSR collapsed. The Berlin Wall came down. East Germany was dissolved. Czechoslovakia and the satellites of the Soviet Union embraced democracy. We had a war in the Persian Gulf, and at this moment, we have a bloody tribal war in what used to be Yugoslavia, and American Marines on the ground in Somalia, to say nothing of a still simmering war with Iraq. It really has been an exceptional time of change, and we'll hear more about change from Bill Clinton today.
Of course, George Bush's supporters would like all to remember that was his legacy. You can see the lady there in the white coat. That is Bill Clinton's mother, Mrs. Kelly, who was a bit of a character herself during the, we heard an awful lot about her during the Democratic convention. Obviously a very, very proud time for her. Katie Couric is still out among them there on the, the west portico of the Capitol. Katie, what you get going? Hello, Katie.
Well, as we're awake, Katie.
Oh, there she is.
Hi, Katie.
Okay.
We see you.
We see you.
Can't hear us. Hi, Katie. Yes.
Yeah, we
okay,
can't
we'll
wait.
come back
We
to
can't see the
you know, there's something for everybody at this inauguration. Mr. Rogers was here for the very young. Then, of course, you had the MTV set for Chelsea and the young teenagers in the Gore family. Judy Collins, Barbara Streisand, Jack Nicholson for Bill and Hillary. Their whole generation represented. Virginia Kelly was at a party the other night and almost passed out with excitement when she saw Mickey Rooney. And they had a real bonding in a Georgetown living room here.
And there's Chelsea. They will, all the those involved, the principals involved in the proceedings will make their way to the platform in stages, culminating, of course, with President-elect Clinton's arrival at the platform. But the wives will move together first, Mrs. Quayle and Mrs. Gore, then followed by Mrs. Bush and Mrs. Clinton. And then Al Gore will come up with Dan Quayle. And lastly, of course, President-elect Clinton. She's got her own escort, and she's beaming.
One does have to feel for Chelsea Clinton, however, 12 years old going on 13, a difficult time in any young person's life, wherever you live, but now to be the only child in the White House, the object of all this attention, the absolute apple of her parents' eye, the painful decision, as they described it, to enroll her in a private, not public school here in Washington, where she has been criticized. There's President Carter talking with Congressman Ron Dellums and with Ron Brown. It's worth remembering that when Jimmy Carter left office 12 years ago, everybody said, well, that's it. No Southern governor will ever be elected president of the United States again. And the first time the Democrats get back in, it's a Southern governor.
There was a rumor for a time that Justice Thurgood Marshall, now of course retired from the Supreme Court, would not only be attending the swearing-in ceremonies, but might in fact hold the Bible and do the swearing-in of Bill Clinton. But now we're not even sure if he has, if he is healthy enough to make his way on over to the Capitol, and we hope if Katie Couric sees him, she might just alert us along the line. There's nothing in the Constitution that says the Supreme Court Justice must deliver the oath, although tradition has it that he does. You can see Mrs. Quayle being escorted to her position.
Barbara Bush, who was one of the most popular first ladies. For all of her grace and charm, she was somebody who endeared herself to the American public there with Hillary Clinton, who will represent her generation in an entirely different way. Barbara Bush has said that she's often told her children that she married the first man she ever kissed, and then she adds, and they almost always throw up when I say that.
They'll be heading back for Houston today, where they will take occupancy of a rented house while theirs is being constructed. And yes, he will have an office in Houston. We understand that office is being hurriedly completed now, that he intends to go right to work. We assume it will not be too long before he starts to pen his memories.
How times have changed. Thomas Jefferson, who was one of Bill Clinton's political heroes, of course, an icon for all Americans, when he was sworn in as President of the United States, walked back across the Capitol Plaza to his boarding house. Some of his his political advance people are with him, as well as his Secret Service agents, making sure that he gets to the right place at the right time. Transformation of power on practical terms. That's the Clinton van moving their furniture into the White House.
Some things you can't get around.
That's right. But you know, it's always good to be otherwise occupied on moving day. And Bill Clinton can say, gee, I wanted to help guys, but I was up at the Capitol. I had other things that I had to do.
See ya.
Vice President Dan Quayle and George Bush.
Okay, Dan Quayle, we understand that following the ceremonies today, we'll head out to Andrews Air Force Base, and there too, Tom, head down to Florida to be tutored in his golf with a good friend by the name of Jim McClain, a teaching pro down there, and then he's going to try to make his way on out to the golf course and see if he can get his handicap in some kind of decent shape.
John Chancellor, what about the political future of Dan Quayle?
The political future of Dan Quayle resembles at this point the political future of Richard Nixon. And when Nixon stopped being vice president and went more or less into the wilderness for about 8 years and elected president of the United States. That must be in Al Gore's mind, some of these things, what happens to vice presidents, either moving up or moving on later. Quayle says he will not run for the seat of governor of Indiana, seat, which will be open in 1996. Nobody quite understands why he would do that. He's fairly popular in Indiana, but my guess is that his chance will come in the year 2000, and that he will indeed be here in Dan Quayle.
Might be the lesson of Richard Nixon, who ran for governor of California and lost.
Well, Tom, that occurred to me, and Quayle is a good student of politics and certainly remembers that.
Let's just take in this moment if we can. This needs no description from us. Bush and Bill Clinton were never together in the holding room, we're told, and for all the descriptions of having an administration that looks like America, for this occasion at least, we have a whole lot of white males and ties. Bill Clinton and Al Gore are a little more ebullient than George Bush and Dan Quayle, and with good reason, of course. Very close to schedule now. We'll be hearing from Senator Wendell Ford, who will call the proceedings to order, the Democrat of Kentucky.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect, William Jefferson Clinton.
Years old, and he has spent almost every waking moment of his adult life preparing for this moment. Candidate for Congress, Attorney General of Arkansas, 5-term governor, once defeated, a force in Democratic politics of the simplest version, very challenging presidential campaign and prevailed when many people thought that he would fail or at least stumble along the way. What is going to happen now is that we're going to hear from Billy Graham, then we'll hear Marilyn Horne with a medley of American music, and then the oath of office. Here's Wendell Ford.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chief Justice, former President and Mrs. Carter, President-elect Clinton and Vice President-elect Gore, my colleagues and guests, welcome to the 1993 presidential inauguration. Today, our nation bids a gracious goodbye to an outgoing administration and warmly welcomes in a new one as William Jefferson Clinton takes office as the 42nd President of the United States. This peaceful and orderly transfer of power that we will soon witness is a remarkable tribute to the genius of the Constitution and the enduring strength of our political system and our proud national heritage. Indeed, the eyes of the nation and the world are on us now as we prepare to inaugurate William Jefferson Clinton as President and Albert Gore Jr. as Vice President of these United States. So President Bush, President-elect Clinton, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as he has been called upon before, we now ask the Reverend Billy Graham to lead our nation in prayer. Reverend Graham.
Shall we pray? Our God and our Father, we thank you for this historic occasion when we inaugurate our new President and Vice President. We thank you for the moral and spiritual foundations which our forefathers gave us and which are rooted deeply in Holy Scripture. Those principles have nourished and guided us as a nation in the past. But we cannot say that we're a righteous people, for we are not. We've sinned against you. We've sown to the wind and are now reaping the whirlwind of crime, drug abuse, racism, immorality, and social injustice. We need to repent of our sins and turn by faith to you. And now on this 20th day of January, 1993, we commit to you President-elect Clinton and Vice President-elect Gore, whom you have permitted to take leadership at this critical time in our nation's history. Help them always to see the office to which they've been elected as a sacred trust from you. We pray that you will bless their wives, who will share so much of the responsibility and burdens. May President-elect Clinton know that he is never really alone, but that the eternal God can be his refuge, and he can turn to you in every circumstance. Give him the wisdom you have promised to those who ask, and the strength you alone can give. We thank you for his predecessor, President Bush, and the dedication he gave to this office. Bless him as he and Mrs. Bush continue their dedicated service to our country in other spheres. We commit this inaugural ceremony to you and ask that the memory of this event may always remind us to pray for our leaders. I pray this in the name of the one who was called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. Amen.
Reverend Billy Graham. Presiding will be Wendell Ford here.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to present the Philander Smith Collegiate Choir from Little Rock, Arkansas. The choir, under the direction of Stephen L. Hayes, will perform City on the Hill, composed by Dr. Marvin V. Curtis.
Keep your thoughts on these things.
Arkansas, as they give way, the next piece of business is going to be the swearing in of Vice President Al Gore. It'll be done by Supreme Court Justice Byron White, who, in addition to being the senior justice on the bench, is the only one still active, appointed by a Democrat.
Justice Byron White, who will administer the vice presidential oath of office to Albert Gore, Jr.
Senator, you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Albert Gore, Jr., do solemnly swear.
I, Albert Gore, Jr., do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I will well and faithfully perform.
That I will well and faithfully perform.
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And I know you will, Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Justice.
A new man is one heartbeat away from the presidency. Senator Al Gore, Tennessee. Expert on arms control on Capitol Hill and a dedicated environmentalist who wrote a very impressive book on the subject about the challenges ahead for the world. Some believe that his approach is too radical, but he feels so strongly about global warming, the place of the internal combustion engine, and government policies in preserving the environment.
And a man who had his own eyes on the White House just 4 years ago when he made a bid for the Democratic nomination, only to come up short and lose out to Michael Dukakis. You see there's a very warm feeling between Al Gore and Bill Clinton.
We'll be seeing a lot of hugs in this administration among men.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have one of the world's best-known sopranos participating in today's ceremony, who will perform an American medley that includes Simple Gifts by Aaron Copland and Make a Rainbow by Portia Nelson. From the Metropolitan Opera, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marilyn Horne.
Bill Clinton's favorite classical artist. You'll recall that she sang at the convention last summer. She happened to be in our makeshift studio a little bit earlier today. She said her only complaint was she'd had so little sleep. Since she's only had 2 hours a night, she hit down.
Welcome to Inaugural Week, Marilyn. This is going to be a very musical administration. It's important to Bill Clinton, and he has here this week, among others, Kathleen Battle, Aretha Franklin, Barbra Streisand, Michael Bolton, Judy Collins, Bob Dylan, Fleetwood Mac, reunited, Michael Jackson. We'll be hearing a lot of American music in the next 4 years.
You mean there's one event Madonna missed? Part of the musical interlude now will be handled by the Marine Band, playing the Liberty Bell March. And then as we come up on noon, we will have the big moment itself, the swearing in of William Jefferson Clinton as our 42nd president by Chief Justice William Rehnquist.
See, this is very smart production, because what you have here is something that the country would like to see, the Marine Band and playing the music. It also gives you a little flexibility in controlling the clock. I mean, they can play for 3 minutes or for 6 minutes if necessary to hit noon straight up. So they were thinking about that.
Nice band.
Before this day is out, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear Bill Clinton back on the saxophone again. Tonight he's going to be visiting the MTV Ball, and the informed speculation is that he may sit in on a set or two.
Really?
Yep.
I'd be kind of surprised at that, but you and I may talk about that a little bit. Let's go back out to the platform where Katie Couric has an vantage point. Katie, what you got? Hello, Katie. Well, evidently, we're still having... Hello, Katie.
Tom and Bryant, I'm sitting here in the crowd, and everybody is enraptured with what's going on here. Obviously, Marilyn Horne's performance was magnificent as she sang that American medley, which, by the way, is a medley that Bill Clinton had specifically requested that she sing. They first met about 7 years ago. And so Bill Clinton's certainly happy to see Marilyn Horne here. Obviously, this is a Marine Band performing, I understand, the Liberty Bell. And in just a moment, we're waiting for Senator Wendell Ford from Kentucky, who is chairman of the Committee on Inaugural Celebrations. Yes, there is a committee named that. He'll be introducing Chief Justice Rehnquist, who will then be swearing in President-elect, soon-to-be President Bill Clinton.
All right, Kitty. Thank you. As we noted a little bit earlier, there is nothing in the Constitution that says this has to be done at noon. They strive for it over and over again, and though we're not working with digitals here, we do think we're about 3 minutes short of noon. What about now?
There's nothing in the Constitution that says you have to be sworn in with your hand on the Bible. 3 presidents have chosen not to do that, but Bill Clinton has a family heirloom that he'll be using.
He has the option of having that Bible open to any passage he wants. We understand that he's elected to open it to a passage from the Epistle of Paul to the Galatians. That passage reads in part, "For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting."
And it was Lady Bird Johnson who was the first wife to hold the Bible for the swearing in of a president. That's a tradition that has been continued since, and we expect that we'll see Hillary Clinton here as well. Some improvisational comic groups in Washington have been having some fun. They were expensive, importantly, for her, saying that when Chief Justice Rehnquist says, "Repeat after me," she'll begin to repeat after him.
Well, of course, there was that cartoon where she had her right hand upraised as Chief Justice Rehnquist looked across at Bill Clinton. But from this point on, we, as soon as the band finishes, we come up with a pretty solemn ceremony.
As we're looking at the band, we'll tell you as well that business is already underway. Boris Yeltsin has sent a wire of congratulations to President-elect Clinton, asking for an urgent meeting. It does not have to be official, he says. If not in the framework of an official visit, then somewhere in a third country to discuss a list of issues we are to implement in the future to develop cooperation. read into that, I need your help right now.
One little small piece of mystery as we approach the swearing in of Bill Clinton, and that is whether or not he will take the formal approach or the more familiar approach when he says his name. Aides say that he has taken his oath of office when being sworn in as governor by saying, "I, Bill Clinton," 5 times. But during rehearsals for this event, he has said his full name, "I, William Jefferson Clinton." So it remains to be seen which he's going to use. Jimmy Carter, as you'll recall, used the informal Jimmy. I think he was the first person to use something other than his given name.
It was George Clinton who was Thomas Jefferson's vice president. Yes. Former governor of New York, a cantankerous guy who didn't think that we ought to have a president, and a lot of speculation that Jefferson chose him only to shut him up for a while. And then he went back to New York. On my memory and my mind's eye to look out across this crowd. I think that this is the largest inaugural crowd that I can remember since 1980 when Ronald Reagan was sworn in. I mean, they reached all the way past the reflecting pool and well onto the mall, starting back down toward Pennsylvania Avenue, and the parade route looks pretty considerable as well.
Maybe you can answer this for me, Tom. I'm not sure. How far does the loudspeaker system, the PA system, extend out from the Capitol building?
I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the moment is at hand.
The Chief Justice of the United States, who will administer the presidential oath of office to William Jefferson Clinton. Chief Justice.
And that court, presided over by Bill Rehnquist, could come in for some very dramatic changes in the administration of Bill Clinton. He is determined to put his stamp on the Supreme Court of the United States.
Governor, are you ready to take the oath?
I am.
Will you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear.
I, William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
42nd President of the United States, 46-year-old William Jefferson Clinton and his family. Exchanging a very meaningful look with Hillary Clinton.
Part of the 21-gun salute that you can hear reverberating across the reflecting pool of the Capitol. The crowd has broken into spontaneous applause, part of that overflow crowd that we can see from our vantage point here.
When Hillary Clinton was a Washington warrior, a friend drove her home one night, and Hillary Clinton said, "Come in and meet my boyfriend. He's going to be the President of the United States someday." Many young women have said that about their boyfriends. Few have realized it.
Spoken like the father of 3 daughters.
A moment to be treasured. Every 4 years, we have this occasion, the inauguration of a new president, in this case, the changing of administration, a passage of one generation to another, done with order and in a peaceful way and with goodwill. Now, the first and most important speech of his political career as President of the United States.
My fellow citizens, today we celebrate the mystery of American renewal. This ceremony is held in the depth of winter, but by the words we speak and the faces we show the world, we force the spring. a spring reborn in the world's oldest democracy that brings forth the vision and courage to reinvent America. When our founders boldly declared America's independence to the world and our purposes to the Almighty, they knew that America, to endure, would have to change. Not change for change's sake, but change to preserve America's ideals: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Though we march to the music of our time, our mission is timeless. Each generation of Americans must define what it means to be an American. On behalf of our nation, I salute my predecessor, President Bush, for his half-century of service to America. And I thank the millions of men and women whose steadfastness and sacrifice triumphed over depression, fascism, and communism. Today, a generation raised in the shadows of the Cold War assumes new responsibilities in a world warmed by the sunshine of freedom, but threatened still by ancient hatreds and new plagues. Raised in unrivaled prosperity, we inherit an economy that is still the world's strongest, but is weakened by business failures, stagnant wages, increasing inequality, and deep divisions among our own people. When George Washington first took the oath I have just sworn to uphold, news traveled slowly across the land by horseback and across the ocean by boat. Now the sights and sounds of this ceremony are broadcast instantaneously to billions around the world. Communications and commerce are global. Investment is mobile. Technology is almost magical. And ambition for a better life is now universal. We earn our livelihood in America today in peaceful competition with people all across the earth. Profound and powerful forces are shaking and remaking our world. And the urgent question of our time is whether we can make change our friend and not our enemy. This new world has already enriched the lives of millions of Americans who are able to compete and win in it. But when most people are working harder for less, when others cannot work at all, when the cost of health care devastates families and threatens to bankrupt our enterprises great and small, when the fear of crime robs law-abiding citizens of their freedom, and when millions of poor children cannot even imagine the lives we are calling them to lead, we have not made change our friend. We know we have to face hard truths and take strong steps, but we have not done so. Instead, we have drifted, and that drifting has eroded our resources, fractured our economy, and shaken our confidence. Though our challenges are fearsome, so are our strengths. Americans have ever been a restless, questing, hopeful people, and we must bring to our task today the vision and will of those who came before us. From our revolution to the Civil War, to the Great Depression, to the Civil Rights Movement, our people have always mustered the determination to construct from these crises the pillars of our history. Thomas Jefferson believed that to preserve the very foundations of our nation, we would need dramatic change from time to time. Well, my fellow Americans, this is our time. Let us embrace it. Our democracy must be not only the envy of the world, but the engine of our own renewal. There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America. And so today we pledge an end to the era of deadlock and drift, and a new season of American renewal has begun. To renew America, we must be bold. We must do what no generation has had to do before. We must invest more in our own people, in their jobs, and in their future, and at the same time, cut our massive debt. And we must do so in a world in which we must compete for every opportunity. It will not be easy. It will require sacrifice. But it can be done, and done fairly. Not choosing sacrifice for its own sake, but for our own sake. We must provide for our nation the way a family provides for its children. Our founders saw themselves in the light of posterity. We can do no less. Anyone who has ever watched a child's eyes wander into sleep knows what posterity is. Posterity is the world to come, the world for whom we hold our ideals, from whom we have borrowed our planet, and to whom we bear sacred responsibility. We must do what America does best, offer more opportunity to all, and demand more responsibility from all. It is time to break the bad habit of expecting something for nothing from our government or from each other. Let us all take more responsibilities, not only for ourselves and our families, but for our communities and our country. To renew America, we must revitalize our democracy. This beautiful capital, like every capital since the dawn of civilization, is often a place of intrigue and calculation. Powerful people maneuver for position and worry endlessly about who is in and who is out, who is up and who is down, forgetting those people whose toil and sweat sends us here and pays our way. Americans deserve better. And in this city today, there are people who want to do better. And so I say to all of you here, let us resolve to reform our politics so that power and privilege no longer shout down the voice of the people. Let us put aside personal advantage so that we can feel the pain and see the promise of America. Let us resolve to make our government a place for what Franklin Roosevelt called bold, persistent experimentation, a government for our tomorrows, not our yesterdays. Let us give this capital back to the people to whom it belongs. To renew America, we must meet challenges abroad as well as at home. There is no longer a clear division between what is foreign and what is domestic. The world economy, the world environment, the world AIDS crisis, the world arms race, they affect us all. Today, as an old order passes, the new world is more free but less stable. Communism's collapse has called forth old animosities and new dangers. Clearly, America must continue to lead the world we did so much to make. While America rebuilds at home, we will not shrink from the challenges nor fail to seize the opportunities of this new world. Together with our friends and allies, we will work to shape change lest it engulf us. When our vital interests are challenged or the will and conscience of the international community is defied, we will act. With peaceful diplomacy whenever possible, with force when necessary. The brave Americans serving our nation today in the Persian Gulf, in Somalia, and wherever else they stand are testament to our resolve. But our greatest strength is the power of our ideas, which are still new in many lands. Across the world, we see them embraced and we rejoice. Our hopes, our hearts, our hands are with those on every continent who are building democracy and freedom. Their cause is America's cause. The American people have summoned the change we celebrate today. You have raised your voices in an unmistakable chorus. You have cast your votes in historic numbers, and you have changed the face of Congress, the presidency, and the political process itself. Yes, you, my fellow Americans, have forced the spring. Now we must do the work the season demands. To that work I now turn with all the authority of my office. I ask the Congress to join with me. But no president, no Congress, no government can undertake this mission alone. My fellow Americans, you too must play your part in our renewal. I challenge a new generation of young Americans to a season of service, to act on your idealism by helping troubled children, keeping company with those in need, reconnecting our torn communities. There is so much to be done. Enough indeed for millions of others who are still young in spirit to give of themselves in service too. In serving, we recognize a simple but powerful truth. We need each other, and we must care for one another. Today, we do more than celebrate America. We rededicate ourselves to the very idea of America. An idea born in revolution and renewed through 2 centuries of challenge. An idea tempered by the knowledge that but for fate, we, the fortunate and the unfortunate, might have been each other. An idea ennobled by the faith that our nation can summon from its myriad diversity the deepest measure of unity. An idea infused with the conviction that America's long, heroic journey must go forever upward. And so, my fellow Americans, as we stand at the edge of the 21st century, let us begin anew with energy and hope, with faith and discipline, and let us work until our work is done. The Scripture says, and let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. From this joyful mountaintop of celebration, we hear a call to service in the valley. We have heard the trumpets. We have changed the guard. And now, each in our own way, and with God's help, we must answer the call. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Bill Clinton and his inaugural address, a speech that he wrote himself. No one ringing phrase sticks out of my memory. A speech welcoming change in America, embracing it. A speech directed at inner America rather than at the role of America in the wider world. A call to renewal and a call for every citizen to take part in it.
He hit all the watchwords, Tom. Renewal, sacrifice, responsibility, reform, and for the record, he said change 9 times. And all of us who were worried about how long he might go, he wound up only going about 14 months.
Two principal themes of his administration, the themes that got him here in the first place, that the domestic agenda is the most important one,
Shortly
and
after
that change
the
is
November
required.
election, President Clinton asked noted educator, historian, and author Dr. Maya Angelou to compose a poem for this historic day. From Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Wake Forest University, please welcome Dr. Angelo.
Mr. President and Mrs. Clinton, Mr. Vice President and Mrs. Gore, and Americans everywhere. Tree hosts to species of But today, the rock cries out to us clearly, forcefully, "Come, you may stand upon my back and face your distant destiny, but seek no haven in my shadow. I will give you no hiding place down here. You, created only a little lower than the angels, have crouched too long in the bruising darkness, have lain too long face down in ignorance, your mouths spilling words armed for slaughter. The rock cries out to us today, you may stand upon me, but do not hide your face. Across the wall of the world, a river sings a beautiful song. It says, come, rest here by my side. Each of you, a bordered country, delicate and strangely made, proud, yet thrusting perpetually under siege. Your armed struggles for profit have left collars of waste upon my shore, currents of debris upon my breast. Yet today, I call you to my riverside, if you will study war no more. Come, clad in peace, and I will sing the songs the Creator gave to me when I and the tree and the rock were one. Before cynicism was a bloody sear across your brow, and when you yet knew, you still knew nothing. The river sang and sings on. There is a true yearning to respond to the singing river and the wise rock. So say the Asian, the Hispanic, the Jew, the African, the Native American, the Sioux, the Catholic, the Muslim, the French, the Greek, the Irish, the rabbi, the priest, the sheik, the gay, the straight, the preacher, the privileged, the homeless, the teacher. They all hear the speaking of the tree. They hear the first and last of every tree. And today, come to me here beside the river. Plant yourself beside the river. Each of you, descendant of some, has been paid for. You who gave me my first name, you Pawnee, Apache, Seneca, you Cherokee Nation who rested with me, then forced on bloody feet, left me to the employment of other seekers, desperate for gain, starving for gold. You the Turk, the Arab, the Swede, the German, the Eskimo, the Scot, you the Ashanti, the Yoruba, the Kru, bought, sold, stolen, arriving on a nightmare, praying for a dream. Here, root yourselves beside me. I am that tree planted by the river which will not be moved. I the rock, I the river, I the tree, I am yours. Your passages have been paid. Lift up your faces. You have a piercing need for this bright morning dawning for you. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon this day breaking for you. Give birth again to the dream. Women, children, men, take it into the palms of your hands. Mold it into the shape of your most private need. Sculpt it into the image of your most privileged self. To look up and out and upon me, the rock, the river, the tree, your country, no less to Midas than the mendicant, no less to you now than the mastodon then. Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning.
Dr. Maya Angelou, completing the poem on the pulse of morning, asked why Bill Clinton selected her. She said because all of her works talk of all-inclusiveness and touch a chord in as many people as possible. And that's what she tried to paint today, some broad strokes that asked us to look at each other.
I thought it was a very evocative piece of work. The words, tenor, the performance.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the 1993 presidential inauguration. As soon as the ceremony is over, my colleague on the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the distinguished Senator from Alaska, Ted Stevens, will form the presidential escort to the east front of the Capitol. To conclude our program now, please rise for the benediction by Reverend Billy Graham and remain standing for the singing of our national anthem by Marilyn Horne. Reverend Graham.
Our Father, we pray that as we come to the end of this ceremony, that we will long remember the challenges that we have heard. And we dedicate ourselves to do everything in our power to keep those challenges and to dedicate ourselves anew, not only to you, but to America and all the great ideals that we stand for. We pray again that thou wouldst bless the President and the Vice President as they lead us in the years to come. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Marilyn Horne now will sing the national anthem to conclude these ceremonies at the Capitol. There is some official business to be conducted in the Capitol, the signing of the nomination papers for the new cabinet.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, say, can you see, by the dawn's early light, what so holy we hailed, and twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched.
stadia across the country, they say play ball after this. But here in Washington, let the Clinton era begin. The business of governing this nation, of restoring its economy, of healing its political divisions, of dealing with a profoundly changed world, now falls on the shoulders of that young man before you, 46-year-old Bill Clinton, the new President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief, Chief Executive.
And with that anthem, most of the solemn moments of this day have been concluded, with the exception of the formal signing of some papers that Bill Clinton will do when he leaves the platform there. Shortly thereafterwards, we understand the Gores will escort the Quayles to a Marine helicopter that will still be designated as Marine One, and then the Quayles will wait inside that helicopter while the Clintons escort the Bushes. That copter will then proceed on out to Andrews Air Force Base, where the Quayles and the Bushes will go their separate ways. The Bushes back to Houston, the Quayles on to Florida for a little while before they return here in order that their children might finish out the school year. Katie Kirk is still up on the platform. We'll see what kind of an advantage point she's got. Katie?
Hi, you guys. Actually, the senators have been very kind and have told me to stand on my chair since I am such a shrimp here. And it's a really incredible perspective from my vantage point. As you can see, President Clinton and the First Lady are now walking up the steps. There he is, shaking hands with everyone, of course, as he is so fond of doing. And it really was a very, very moving experience to be here and witness this. And I think everyone was very inspired by what they saw, the appreciation that President Clinton expressed to former president now, George Bush, which seems almost strange to say at this point.
Katie?
Yes, Tom?
What did the senators think of Bill Clinton's inaugural speech?
Let me ask them, Tom. Senator Sarbanes, what did you think of his speech?
Oh, I thought Governor Clinton gave, President Clinton now, I've got to make that adjustment, gave a very good speech. I was struck it was very short, as a matter of fact, but I thought it was a real challenge to the country and a real call to Americans, all Americans, to join in what lies ahead.
And it was interesting to hear him resurrect so many of the themes used in his campaign of sacrifice, responsibility, and public service, wasn't it?
Those are themes he sounded throughout his public life and that he tried to put into place in Arkansas, and we're hopeful he's going to do it for the country at large.
Tom, we'll get one more opinion from Senator Metzenbaum. If you can come a little closer, Senator, because my mic cord doesn't stretch too far. What did you think of his inaugural address?
I was excited about it. I thought it was uplifting. I thought he talked about the issues that are facing this country and the world, and I think he gave a new sense of hope to those who are without hope at this moment, and I think all of us are happy to get on board and try to put the show on the road.
So Sarbanes and Metzenbaum give the inaugural address 2 thumbs up, Tom and Bryant.
Thank you very much, Katie Couric. I suppose if there is a central theme in all that, apart from change and renewal, it is that we can no longer expect something for nothing. That has been a recurring theme as well. And it's one of the reasons that Bill Clinton and others formed the Democratic Leadership Council to move the Democratic Party more into the center again and not to see it, the role of the federal government, as simply something that dispenses favors to every conceivable group. But the country, to get righted, is going to have to make some sacrifices.
In keeping with that, Tom, he was talking about responsibility, and it was interesting to note where Bill Clinton varied from the prepared text that we were handed when he was talking about powerful people maneuvering for position in Washington and forgetting about those who sent them here. His text had been written to say whose toil and sweat sends them here and pays their way. He changed it when he delivered it to say sends us here and pays our way.
We want to remind you of what's coming up here. Of course, we still have the inaugural parade, which begins, if we stay on schedule, at about 2 Eastern Time. There will be a lunch before that and a number of ceremonies inside the Capitol. NBC's Washington Bureau Chief Moderator of Meet the Press, Tim Russert, is down there in the Capitol area as well. Tim?
Tom, as well as a governmental passage, I was witnessing a political passage here. I watched very closely the looks that Joe Biden, Dick Gephardt, Mario Cuomo, Jesse Jackson, Bill Bradley, a whole group of Democratic senators, congressmen, governors who chose not to run this year, looking at a young 46-year-old man their chance of being president may be gone forever. I reminded of Senator Howard Baker's comment when asked about whether they all wanted to be president. He said, "We all have a white suit in the closet."
Yeah. And Tim, as well, it's not just those people, of course, who will not have the chance to be president, but a lot of people who were loyal to them will not have a role in this government.
Absolutely, Tom. Al Gore and Bill Clinton have picked a cabinet and a sub-cabinet very much of people who were dedicated to them early on, early and often, as they say in Chicago. And that was the code word certainly used throughout the selection process. One other point, Tom, that I ought to bring up, Bill Clinton's constant reference to national service, I believe, was an indication today that is the one domestic program he's going to try to find money for. There may be cuts across the board everywhere else, but he is serious about defining a national service program.
All right, thank you very much, Tim Russert, who's down in the Capitol Plaza. You see the throngs of people that were assembled and paid very careful attention to the inaugural speech, to the music, the swearing in of Al Gore first, and then Bill Clinton, and that moving poem, A Pulse of the Morning, by Maya Angelou. Now they're beginning to disperse across the Capitol. They'll take up their positions along the parade route, many of them.
Not enough of them for some of their liking, although there are more tickets available. More than 75% of those have been allocated to people who were in a position to get such favors across their desk. John Chancellor is sitting across the room and has, of course, been all ears to the proceedings going on. John?
You know, Brian, what we've seen are two guys taking a 35-word oath. Thank you. It's over. That's all it is. It's actually 39 words if you add "So help me God," which Washington added. But it's far more than that. It is this ceremony that we've all seen here at the Capitol for so many times in our history. It legitimizes the presidency, the bigness of it, the bands, the panoply, the pomp. It makes it more than just the 35-word oath taken by two men who are promising to do right by the country. And it fascinates me because it fixes the presidency for the people of the United States every 4 years and for the people of the world. And that's why I think the inaugural address is very important.
John, you go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to ask John, what did you think of Bill Clinton's speech?
I thought it was pretty much what we expected it to be. It was not a laundry list. It was sort of a panoramic view of what he may be doing. What struck me about it, Tom, more than anything else, is that we've had two bad news inaugural addresses in a row. In 1989, George Bush said, "Our funds are low. We have more will than wallet." And President Clinton said in 1993, "We have to face hard truths and take strong steps, but we have not done so," he said. "We have drifted." These are two fairly stern addresses to the country about a United States that's off the track, and we've had two in a row now. And otherwise, I thought it was a fine address and blessedly short. Thank you. 15 minutes.
He did hear the word brief. And speaking of brief, we'll be back briefly, but first a station break.
NBC News coverage of the Clinton inaugural will continue.
Saturday, 2 hours of Empty Nest and Nurses when young lust fills Empty Nest. And Cheers, John Ratzenberger visits Nurses. Then at 9, 8 Central, an all-new Empty Nest. Harry's a Vegas lounge lizard, but these babes want to cash in his chips. We were robbed! Then another outrageous Nurses. 2 hours of Empty Nest and Nurses. NBC Saturday.
Pool.
Spas.
Patio furniture.
Pool tables.
Yes, Clover's warehouse sale is on. 24-foot round pools from $5.99. Complete packages just $9.99.
Spas, $200 to $2,000 off on shelves and portables ready to go from just $14.93.
40, 50, 60% saving on top quality patio furniture. Dining sets under $100.
And pool tables, slate bed delivered and installed from $8.99.
Clover's annual warehouse sale. Don't miss it.
His injuries are only the beginning of his problems. He'll be out of work for months and be running up some pretty heavy medical bills. He should be finding out if he is entitled to compensation. He should be talking to a lawyer.
Law offices.
Talk Law to learn if we can recover money damages for you. From Rochester and surrounding areas, dial 1-800-TALK-LAW. Scott Gottlieb is an attorney who recovers money damages for accident victims. Call now, 1-800-TALK-LAW.
MAD, an organization of mothers against drunk drivers.
We're back back and awaiting the appearance of the new president of the United States, Bill Clinton, who, following his instincts, is shaking a lot of hands. He's a man who thoroughly enjoys the business of being a politician, talking to a lot of folks. Following the debates, he would stay for sometimes an hour in the arena and discuss policy with people, or as one of my colleagues said, he's down there wonking until the midnight arrives. We do expect to see him momentarily. He'll go inside the Capitol. He has to sign 4 documents. The new executive order on ethics, which is going to put much more stringent limits on what people can do when they leave office. A proclamation making January 22nd a National Day of Fellowship. He'll nominate officially his 19 cabinet posts and his sub-cabinet posts. Only one of those cabinet appointees or nominees seems to be in some trouble at the moment. We still don't know how much. That's Zoe Baird, who was on the platform today, is a candidate for Attorney General. She did acknowledge that she hired illegal aliens and failed to pay Social Security taxes on them. And there's some question now about how swiftly she'll move through the United States Senate.
Tom, our cameras are focused on the East Front for departure because in advance of that signing, we expect to see the Quails emerge from that front along with the Gores. The Gores will escort the Quails to a Marine helicopter. There inside, they will await the arrival of the Bushes, who will shortly, we would hope and expect, be escorted to that same helicopter by the new President Bill Clinton and his First Lady Hillary.
Let's go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, where the Clinton moving in process is well underway, and NBC's Andrea Mitchell, who is our new White House correspondent, is standing by there right now. Andrea, what's going on at the White House?
Well, this is that very awkward period, the transition. One press aide has arrived, and as well as the National Security Advisor, who came prior to the swearing in. But other than that, no one has moved in yet. They are waiting the arrival back here of more staff people in the next couple of hours. They're not going to really move in for a while. They said that tomorrow the boxes will arrive. They still have to shut down the transition office. But they're going to be getting started right away. As you said, there are going to be executive orders, and there are going to also be major policy changes in the next few days by executive order. Among those, the executive orders permitting fetal tissue research. We're expecting on Friday, the anniversary of Roe versus Wade, to have major decisions, including the lifting of the so-called gag order, denying abortion counseling at federally funded clinics. So there are a lot of things that are going to be done right away, swearing in of the cabinet secretaries, those who have been confirmed, and the first cabinet meeting, we believe, will be on Friday.
Andrea, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump right in there because as we can see, the Gores and the Clintons have come out of the Capitol, and they're saying, did I say the Gores and the Clintons? I'm sorry, the Gores and the Quails, of course, have come out and they have bid goodbye to each other on the steps. Dan and Marilyn Quayle heading out to get on the helicopter, and we understand that once they get to Andrews, they, as we said a little bit earlier, will be going on to Florida, but they will be coming back to the nation's capital. They feel very strongly they want to stay here and allow their youngsters to finish out the school year before they move back home to Indiana.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to both of them, because Marilyn Quayle, obviously a well-trained lawyer, has her own ambitions.
Well, remember when I was leaning down?
And Dan Quayle has kind of repaired his image in the closing year of this administration. He has very strong support in the conservative wing of the Republican Party, which does dominate the nomination process, and many believe that he performed more vigorously than his boss during the presidential debates. And politics is something that he has done with some skill, so we'll see whether he decides to run again for President of the United States the next time. I would think he would welcome the relief as well from being the favorite target of stand-up comedians, both professional and barroom variety, for a period of time.
Spotlight gets a little intense every now and then. In the case of Dan Quayle, it was often cruel. You can see Marine One standing by right there. Although it will not be carrying the new president, it will still be Marine One equipment. We understand that one little point of trivia, it's been named Nighthawk now for this particular journey, and Air Force One will become known for this journey by its tail number 2800. That jet will, of course, be delivering the Bushes to Texas.
You know, kind of student of the perks of power. I think that the hardest thing to give up would be the ease of transportation. I remember saying to Harold Brown when he was outgoing defense secretary, what are you going to miss most? He said, I had my own Air Force. I'm kidding. Mrs. Bush and Mrs. Clinton. Yes. Blue is the order of the day, Brian. Mrs. Clinton, I'm not an authority on this, but it's worth noting, she's a fan of Donna Karan, the designer. Her inaugural ball tonight, designed by Sarah Phillips. And this is from Little Rock, Connie Falls. The inaugural day outfit was designed by a woman from Little Rock, Arkansas. She does like the colors red, royal, and purple, we're told. I've now exhausted my entire body of knowledge about
I was going to let you go. You were doing fine. Forget when you got to the height of the heels, I'd jump in, and there you can see the new president, Bill Clinton, and now former president, George Bush, former for a little less than 45 minutes now.
Mrs. Clinton said on a number of occasions how grateful she was to Barbara Bush for her grace and her helpfulness when they visited the White House to take her through that home. That the president said today, former President Bush, welcome to your new house.
Actually, you wonder what kind of thoughts are going through Mrs. Bush's mind right now. There was, of course, a lot of speculation early on this year about whether or not she really wanted another 4 years at the White House. It's no secret that she is a woman madly in love with George Bush and likes his company and would like to have him around and likes his undivided attention. And I would imagine that she's not quite as broken up as he is right now.
We'll be seeing a lot of them in the next 4 years, Bill and Hillary Clinton. And that helicopter will take George and Barbara Bush, eventually, a trip that will take them, as he has described it, into the full-time grandchildren business. It's a wonderful phrase, you know, looking at helicopters, about Lyndon Johnson. He once arrived at an airport where there are a lot of helicopters parked, and one of his aides said, "That's your helicopter over there, Mr. President." He put his arm around him and said, "Son, they're all my helicopters." Brought you a little something. Bush flying over a Capitol where he has served in so many capacities. He was a member of the United States Congress. He was the director of the CIA. He represented his president as ambassador to the United Nations. He was the representative to China. He ran the Republican National Committee. He was vice president of the United States for 8 years and president of the United States for 4 years. So he's been very much a part of Washington, D.C. for most of his adult life.
Long regarded as the man with the...
Right.
I'm sure this was not the ending that he would have written, but it's the ending that's his on this day, as Bill Clinton assumes the presidency.
George Bush raised in the prosperity of a wealthy Connecticut household, genteel WASP family, environment of prosperity and privilege. Private schools and Yale University, served in the Navy World War II, gives way to a young man from Arkansas whose father was killed in a car wreck, raised by a stepfather whom he loved, but had conflict with over his stepfather's alcoholism. Bright and ambitious, came to Georgetown, then to Yale, then to Oxford, opposed the war in Vietnam, went back home to Arkansas, and began a political career that today brings him to Washington, D.C. as the new president.
Though George Bush talks about going into the grandfather business full-time, those who know him well suspect that he'll have a very difficult time dealing with full-time retirement. They suspect that he will become involved in some kind of active retirement work. Exactly what that entails, no one has clearly defined. John Chancellor, you looked at me quizzically over there. Some thoughts?
Well, George Bush is leaving office as a very popular president. The polls have him at 55% approval rating today. That is second only to Ronald Reagan's astounding 63% approval rating when he left. But it also has to be said that Mr. Bush has lived, I got the figures here somewhere, he has lived in public housing as a government servant for 15 of about the last 20 years, 4 years in the White House, 8 years in the vice presidential residence, 1 year in that beautiful house in Beijing, as when he was the China rep, 2 years in the Waldorf Towers in New York as our representative at the United Nations, and for a fellow who made $200,000 a year as president, his pension is $187,000 a year. So long, Mr. Bush, you did well.
But lest we be swept up by those approval ratings, outgoing presidents are a little bit like second-string quarterbacks. Fans love them in part because they're not making the mistake.
Well, Nixon went out at 24%, Carter went out at 34%, so Reagan and Bush did far better than that.
And there are some who believe that he spent so much time in public housing and so much time insulated from the real-life woes of the American public that it got him in trouble in the course of his campaign, of course. We'll be back with more from Washington on this inaugural day, January 20th, 1993, right after this.
The presidential inaugural ceremonies are being sponsored in part by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? It's more than just a question. It's an answer.
You're right. Ford does build in toughness. But we also build in things that help you drive safely. Four-wheel anti-lock brakes are standard on Explorer and Bronco.
Built-in child seats are available on Aerostar, and both Aerostar and Club Wagon offer driver's side airbags. Ford builds tough trucks.
But we also build long-term relationships.
The best-built, best-selling American trucks are built Ford tough.
Tears of pain, tears of joy. But when your eyes are dry, soothe them with the tears of Murine. Closer to your own tears than other leading eye drops or artificial tears. Murine, natural tears formula.
My doctor said Habitrol.
Habitrol.
It's a nicotine patch.
That's the one.
For information, call 1-800-685-2000.
Habitrol.
Ask your doctor about Habitrol Nicotine Transdermal System. It's only available by prescription.
You should call your doctor.
Wow, you folks look like experienced travelers.
Well, we are staying at a Clarion hotel.
Did you know if you pay for your room with the American Express card, you can save 30%?
Sure, for business or pleasure.
So, happy with your room?
Yeah, they told us if they couldn't make us happy, their first night's on them.
Ooh, sounds like a good deal.
Oh, and another thing.
At Clarion, they don't throw your luggage around. Tea?
Thank you. Clarion Hotels and the American Express card. For reservations, call 1-800-4CHOICE.
NBC News coverage of the Clinton inaugural continues. Here again are Tom Brokaw and Bryant Gumbel.
Thank you. We're back here in our kind of makeshift studio, as Brian has described it, and it is truly that, but it has a magnificent view behind us of the nation's capital. We're atop the Labor Building on Constitutional Avenue, awaiting the beginning of the parade. Bill Clinton is going into the Capitol now to sign some papers for the new ethics law and also for the nomination of his cabinet members. And at the White House, they're trying to get his socks into the right drawer, they're trying to get the rocking chair into the right place, and they're trying
You're
to...
talking about what goes in his feet, not the animal.
That's right. That's not, yeah, but the cat, you know, and the cat's probably prowling around the Oval Office even as we speak. Franklin Pierce, after he was sworn in, went back down to the White House. There was no place for him to sleep. He had to sleep in a
Well, of course, they've got that public reception still to come, and as you noted, Tom, the president has gone into a room down in the Capitol to formalize a couple of pieces of business before moving on to a luncheon. And then after the luncheon, it's on to the parade.
A lot of jobs still to be filled in this administration, and there are going to be some empty offices. The fact of the matter is that the Bush administration said, we want our people to resign. They're done as of noon Wednesday. So that means a lot of the sub-agency jobs, the wheels that make federal machinery turn, are going to be unoccupied for the next couple of days. Now, that doesn't mean your government's going to shut down because it has a certain amount of momentum, but Bill Clinton will have to deal with that almost immediately. I think he's going to sign first this new executive order on ethics. A left-handed president, by the way.
Another one.
Right. Well, that's reassuring. He read it before he signed it.
Okay. Now, next one is a proclamation. Oh, yes.
You wonder at what exact moment the enormity of it all hits Bill Clinton. You get up on a day like today, and obviously you're anxious, and you're going from event to event, and you are the center of attraction, and you are swept up in it. And you wonder at what point, when he's alone with his private thoughts, does the enormity of what he's embarking on hit him.
My guess is it'll come tomorrow morning when he gets his national security briefing for the first time, and he has to make a decision about whether to launch American warplanes against perhaps targets in Iraq, or something blows up someplace in Bosnia, or we have an incident in Somalia.
But even tomorrow, he's got some events attending to the festivities, you know, the public reception. But yeah, there has to come that time when one man kind of looks and realizes what he's got at hand.
But it's tomorrow that ceremony gives way to reality.
Yeah.
And he looks at the economic figures in this country, and he looks at the expectations that he has helped raise, that we have helped him raise, that the country now expects him to fulfill.
And he talks about the business of trying to downplay them.
Right. I talked to him the other day, to the two of them, really, about what they would do in the first morning that they awoke in the White House. When he was elected president, they looked at each other and laughed. And when I asked the question, Hillary quickly answered, we'll pull the covers over our head. Alan Simpson, who will be a spirited adversary on Capitol Hill, having a good laugh with Al Gore. They were colleagues in the Senate. Al Simpson with one of the keenest senses of humor and one of the sharpest tongues on Capitol Hill. Bob Dole, who relishes the idea that he's now the ranking Republican in the nation's capital, and he too will be a spirited adversary.
If Saddam is famous for cheat and retreat, I guess we could say Alan Simpson has heat and retreat.
Right.
He always manages to stick it to someone and then to apologize a little bit later. If you're wondering about the schedule, they are still pretty much right on schedule. In fact, they might even be ahead of it. They're not supposed to move onto the luncheon until 1:05, which is still about 10 minutes away. The president and his vice president, after leaving this room, will greet those who were among the many entertaining on the platform during the ceremonies today. That would include those of the Philander Smith Choir and also the Ballard High School Choir. And as you can see, the Marine helicopter carrying the former President and Vice President George Bush and Dan Quayle and their wives has arrived at Andrews Air Force Base.
NBC's John Cochran, who has been covering the Bush administration, has more for us right now. John?
Tom, the president, the former president, had not wanted a big to-do out here, but some of his fans, some of the loyal people who worked for him in the campaign have showed up out here. We've got several thousand people. As I say, he didn't want it, but he just has to go along with it. He didn't want to be ungracious by saying they couldn't absolutely be here. The cabinet member who's here is Jack Kemp. And he will not be flying down to Houston with the president, but some of the president's other aides, such as Marlin Fitzwater and Margaret Tutwiler, will be flying with him, Tom. Then they will take the plane back here to Washington. They will not stay with him. You were talking about George Bush living in public housing for so many years. Well, he'll soon be living in private housing in a rented home down in Houston, while he and Mrs. Bush have their new home built just across the street.
John, what are you hearing from the White House, the staff around George Bush, the people that you know so well, about what he is likely to do now?
He has refused to accept any of the hundreds of invitations he's received to speak, for example, at college commencements. He has also told his aides he will not do what Ronald Reagan did. He will not sell the office of the presidency. He will not fly off to Tokyo and collect a couple of $1 million for appearing there. He will not do anything like that. I'm told privately he was a little unhappy with what former President Gerald Ford has done, some of his business activities, and the president feels that even the former office of the presidency for him is something he must still occupy in a way with great dignity. So he's going to work on his presidential library at Texas A&M. He's going to write his memoirs, make some money with that. All former presidents do that. He says he will be involved in some way in some form of public activities, but he hasn't decided what, possibly a charity. He says he will not criticize Bill Clinton for at least a year. After that, the wraps are off, Tom.
Okay, John, we are watching the doorway of what's traditionally known as Marine One. It's the renamed the Nighthawk. Is that what you said, Brian?
Yeah, Nighthawk.
Big helicopter.
You know, we've talked about how he and Bill Clinton get along. We can overdo that. He likes Bill Clinton the same way that the Miami Dolphins like the Buffalo Bills or the University of Alabama. Miami likes the University of Alabama after losing a big fight. He really hates to lose. George Bush is a real competitor.
Right, and during the course of the campaign, there were some pretty sharp barbs that were exchanged with George Bush, who said, "These bozos, my dog Billy knows more about foreign